Perspective are a very interesting thing. Let me tell you a story. About 2 days ago, no, sorry, 2 weeks ago, my parents had to leave the house based on for some unforeseen event, based on some issues they had back in their hometown. So they had to go settle it. It was very, very impromptu. It wasn't planned for. So when my parents left, I was the only one available. Although I'm not the eldest in my family, or I'm the youngest, but currently I'm the youngest true-born son of my father, who's a thumb. So I was the one who was basically in charge of most of everything. So I had to do the responsibilities of my dad and the responsibilities of my mom. And to be honest, I wouldn't lie to you, it taught me a lot about perspective. It taught me a lot about respecting the views of others. Because I'd wake up as early as 5 a.m. when I slept as late as 12, sometimes 2 p.m., sometimes 12 p.m. And it's just so crazy. It's just so crazy. And if not for the kind of person I was, if not for the kind of strength and, should I say, mental resilience I've built and God's grace per se, I wouldn't have been able to handle this. I wouldn't have been able to handle this. I would have broken down big time. But aside from breaking down, aside from realizing that I would have broken down, it made me just respect perspective. It made me see why sometimes my father would get angry at me for no reason, or sometimes why my mom would kind of like feel a certain way towards me for no reason. Aside from them, it made me just realize in the grand scheme of things, this is how reality actually works. There are a lot of people with a lot of, should I say, opinions, and a lot of, should I say, a lot of different ways of expressing these opinions. And in most cases, they don't sit well with the other party that's receiving the expression of their opinion. And the thing you don't get is that most times when you're trying to kind of like interpret most of their expressions, you think they're just acting out of happenstance, and if you were to be in their situation, you would have acted differently. The truth is, that's not the case. You wouldn't have acted differently. You wouldn't have done anything different than what they did. You would have probably even done worse. And the secret to understanding this is to not just see things from your perspective, but to kind of like put yourself in their shoes. Let's say a man stops you on the road and starts ranting and starts shouting, and obviously your first response to that is to block him up. But if you kind of like take the time, of course you shouldn't take the time to wait for somebody on the road who's psycho, but this is for example's sake. But if you take the time to kind of like view things from this other person's perspective, you understand life from their own point of view, and either you want to convince them, either you want to persuade them, either you want to kind of like convict them. No matter what you want to do, it's way easier when you and the other person is on the same level. This kind of like reminded me of a quote from my mentor JPP, that's Jordan Peterson. He said, if you look back at the bad people of history, don't say you can't be like them, because you definitely can be like them. Those people are exactly like you, and you could even be worse. Just say you decide not to be like them. And I think that's the best framework to use to approach perspectives in life, especially the negative aspect of it. Once you see things that, okay, these things are bad, instead of trying to shrug it off and trying to say, oh no, I wouldn't do that, I wouldn't do this, because I've heard of experiences when people say, oh no, I wouldn't do that, but when they get in the shoes of that person that was reacting the same way, they start to feel like, oh, this is how it is and this is how things were. And back to what I was saying, so I wouldn't drift, it's best you decide not to, not like shrugging yourself off and saying you wouldn't do such a thing. You decide, okay, I tell myself I wouldn't do such a thing because I decide not to do such a thing. And on the positive aspect of it, if you see things from a person's perspective, it's kind of like way easier to persuade them. Just like you watching this, for example, you might have different opinions while you're watching this, but if I bring myself to the extent of your opinion and try to see things from your opinion, we kind of like have this connection. We kind of like merge on a certain level of things, and from there on we kind of like start to build things and build on well, and it's easier for me to talk you into anything, either doing business with me or probably following me or doing this. So, and as per follow, this is the end of the video. I appreciate it. Like, subscribe. Cheers. Talk soon.